The fascism that you're about to experience is not coming only from Washington, D.C., it's growing in your own backyard. But don't feel hopeless. This is not something that you can do nothing about. In fact, it's the fascism that's happening and growing in your own backyard that you have the greatest influence over, that you can reach out and stop. Now, a lot of Americans, especially in this day and age when everything is digital, we tend to have our focus on national issues, national stories, not just things like Washington, D.C. and Congress and SCOTUS and, co-president Musk and his pet Donald Trump. Whether it's because of the algorithm or the choice of cable news producers, we tend to collectively pay attention to the same problems, and we focus our mind and our energy on either trying to solve those problems or trying to get others to solve those problems. So, what does anti-fascism have to do with a woman's right to healthcare? Everything. Part of fascism is treating women like their only purpose is to be bred. I mean, that's the words that fascists use. Controlling a woman's reproductive rights is a tenet of fascism. So here's what I mean by people paying attention to a national story, but how they need to take it closer to home and act closer to home. If you pay attention to developments on the abortion front, you've heard about Maria Margarita Rojas. She is a midwife who ran several women's health clinics in Texas, who was recently arrested with two of her colleagues for allegedly performing an abortion. Part of the reason that this has gained national attention is because it's really a first strike. This is the first time the state of Texas and Attorney General Ken Paxton have acted on their post Roe versus Wade total abortion ban to prosecute people. This is an important case, and it's something that we should all be paying attention to. And one of the things that I want people to pay attention to is the language that's coming out of Attorney General Ken Paxton's office. Rojas is an American citizen. But if you were to read the press releases from the Attorney General's office, if you were to see the statements by his office, you would be led to believe that she is not. Her two colleagues who are also arrested as part of this case, they are immigrants as well. And in the press release that Ken Paxton sent out, he is accusing them of coming into the country illegally, but he is being careful with his language. Like Vice President J.D. Vance, Paxton appears to be using language that is kind of conflating different immigration statuses and effectively just calling someone illegal because they don't like the way that they came into the country and got protected status. Now, to be clear, I don't know the exact details of the other two men and their status, but the language that Paxton is using is suspicious. It's also worth noting that Ken Paxton is using the word abortionist, which is a anti-choice slur that is used to demonize medical providers and make them sound like they're criminals. He also uses the word perform several times in talking about this case. And what that is supposed to evoke in the mind of the reader or of the listener is scalpel in hand, legs in stirrups, like performing a bloody operation. And that is not what is being alleged here. What is being alleged is that a woman who had a non-viable pregnancy was given some pills to perform a necessary medical abortion. The details about the patient in this case are kind of slim. She is only described using initials. So it's important for us to pay attention to this on the national level because it's an indication of what is about to start happening across the United States. But the reason that I want to try to convince people not to focus all of their attention if they're concerned with a woman's right to choose on a case that's, in another state or in another part of the country is because wherever you are in the United States, women in your own backyard need protection because anti-choice extremists are being emboldened. It didn't get a lot of headlines, but one of the first acts that Donald Trump took when he sat in the Oval Office during this presidency was he pardoned dozens of people convicted of the FACE Act. The FACE Act is the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances bill. This was passed in the 1990s to protect both patients and their providers from things like violent assaults, which are politically motivated. Now, what is politically motivated violence? Violence that is meant to shape the activities of the intended victim, whether it's a civilian populace or a government. That is terrorism. So Donald Trump pardoned a few terrorists in addition to the January 6 terrorists. And these recently pardoned extremists are traveling around the country, and they are going to clinics where access to abortion is still legal, and they are using violent threats and intimidation tactics, harassment, to stop women from getting the care that they need. I live in New York. There are strong legal protections for women and their providers here in this state. And the vast majority of New Yorkers support a woman's right to choose. However, there are still extremists who camp out in front of clinics all day, every day, because this is what they do. It is their life's purpose. And for that reason, clinic escorts, volunteers, are necessary all around the country where access is still legal. So to recap, control of women's bodies, specifically reproductive health care, is an element of fascism everywhere that it arises. And while, yes, the actions of national actors in Washington, D.C., or an attorney general like Ken Paxton in Texas, these things matter and we need to pay attention to them. In most cases, we, the people around the country, can't do much about these things, but we can take everyday actions in our own backyards to fight the fascism that is budding up all around the country. So if you want to learn more about this specific case and actions that you can take to get organized to protect women's access to healthcare in your own backyard, check out my latest post on Substack. Here, I write about the Rojas case. I explain the historical context of it. In this piece, I also talk about how last week, Task Force Butler and Common Defense, a veterans organization that we partner with, had folks on the ground in Greenville outside a women's healthcare clinic. And there, we observed local law enforcement collaborating with these anti-choice extremists. We are preparing to take evidence of what we witnessed to the city council. And we will work with local activists on the ground to make sure that those who deserve justice are able to obtain it. Fascism may be all around us, but democracy is not lost. So check out my latest article on Substack, On Offense with Chris Goldsmith.